What's going on, guys? Welcome back. And seen as Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore finally released over this past weekend, and considering the fact that literally everyone voted for me to make this video, I am going to be ranking all 11 Wizarding World films. That includes the 8 Harry Potter films and the 3 Fantastic Beasts films that we now have. Just to be clear, I don't think any of these films are objectively bad. At their best, they are great, and at their worst, they are only mediocre or average. I think they all have their highs and lows. And of course, this is an opinion-based ranking. Please do not feel as though any of my placements on this list are a personal attack on you. They are simply my opinions, and feel free to share yours in the comments below. With that being said, let's get into this list. At number 11, I have Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. As with all of these films, this film is extremely well made on a technical level. There are several very entertaining and even emotional moments. However, those emotional moments do not hit quite as hard as they should because of the fact that there is so much context missing from the story. Moments like Dobby's death, which are very poignant, would have hit harder had they properly built up the relationship between Harry and Dobby like the books did. This film feels like the moment where the creative team realized that they had cut out so much context that was necessary for the story to work, that they're just trying to make up for lost time in several very lazy exposition dumps. Well, they do not prioritize the exposition that is necessary to explain holes in the immediate story. Unfortunately, this film feels like yet another victim of the splitting books into 2 movies trend that films like The Hunger Games fell into. While I do like those films a lot more than most, I cannot deny that this film feels like a lot of padding and as if it is clinging on to the coattails of a more exciting film, which it is. Moving on to number 10, I have Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Now, the reason I put this one above the Deathly Hallows Part 1 is because it does do more to progress the story and raises the stakes by having Voldemort return at the end and literally kill a child. The buildup of dread to the final showdown is very well executed, and Brendan Gleeson really does carry the film in my opinion with his performance as Mad-Eye Moody. However, it does feel like one of the most muddled and unfocused films in the Harry Potter franchise because of the fact that the director, Mike Newell, had no passion for the source material. There are a variety of blatant errors in the script, which would not have been the case if he had done his research, and there are a ton of plot lines that are introduced and never get resolved. The Triwizard Tournament is also one of the most underwhelming things about the film, which should not be the case considering the fact that it was one of the most exciting aspects of the book. At number 9, I have Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. I typically see people putting this one at the bottom of their lists, and I certainly don't think it deserves to be that low because it does have some great elements. Horace Slughorn's character arc is very poignant, Draco Malfoy's role in the story is fantastic, and the third act is honestly so good that it makes the rest of the film pale by comparison, and that does elevate it above the previous 2 films on this list. However, it prioritizes several of the wrong things, such as the romantic drama above Tom Riddle's backstory. It also does dirty many of the best aspects of the book, particularly the relationship between Harry and Ginny, which is completely butchered in this film. It's also lacking in energy, which I do feel was an intentional choice by David Yates, but it does make for a somewhat boring experience. At number 8, I have Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. It really hurts to be putting this film so low on the list because it has so many individual parts that I love. Harry stepping into a leadership role and creating Dumbledore's army is very inspiring to me. The Ministry trying to interfere with affairs at Hogwarts is something very interesting that further explores the political intricacies of the Wizarding World. The introduction of countless new characters such as Umbridge, Bellatrix, and Luna is great, as well as more screen time being dedicated to old ones such as Neville is very much appreciated. Unfortunately, the main plot being nonsensical and several integral pieces of information being excluded make for a rather messy and unsatisfying third act, and the film as a result doesn't fully come together at the end of the day. Moving on to number 7, what may end up being one of the most controversial placements on this list, I have Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Now, this film is very exciting, and it finds many ways to pay off things that these films created on their own, as well as containing several of the most memorable and iconic moments from the entire series. Harry seeing Dumbledore in King's Cross, the final showdown, "Not my daughter, you Snape's memories being one of the most emotionally hard-hitting scenes from the entire franchise. However, there are some small things that pull me out of it a little bit, and I've never loved this film as much as everyone else. I understand why certain people say this is the best film in the franchise, but I've just never felt that way personally, and for those reasons, it receives this spot on my list. At number 6, I have the most recent addition to the franchise, Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. Now, in my recent review for this film, I feel that I may have come across a little bit too negatively towards it, because despite it being, in my opinion, the weakest film in the Fantastic Beasts series, I still really enjoyed it. It was an intricately constructed and highly entertaining adventure. I was still invested in the characters, and I found many of the directions in which they took the story to be logical. Despite that, there are certain things that I feel need to be explained, and which need further examination on future rewatches. Things were also told to us too frequently rather than being shown, which prevented me from becoming as emotionally invested in the story as I wanted to be. This film's position may change in future. It may move up on this list, but as of right now, it sits comfortably in the middle. Moving on to number 5, I have Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Now, this film is easily one of the most creative and innovative of the entire franchise. Alfonso Cuarón's direction really does add a lot to it, and it is able to take the tone of the series in a darker direction without it feeling forced or jarring, unlike a lot of other franchises where they take a straight nosedive into darkness. Believe me, I understand the love for this film, but there are too many small details that pull me out for me to call it my favorite. While I was compiling this list, I had a flashback to my Spider-Man ranking video from earlier this year. That is because Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald is essentially the Wizarding World equivalent of The Amazing Spider-Man 2 for me, a film that almost everyone else dislikes but that I passionately enjoy. I feel that it logically continues everything from the first film and takes the story in interesting new directions. I find it consistently engaging as it actually bothers to explore deep and mature themes that most modern blockbusters don't even bother to touch. The only things that really hold it back are that it does have some minor issues, and it has some more fan-servicey elements, but those don't bother me because they have put the effort into developing the story. It just means that it's not quite as original as the first film. I will stand by my position on this film, as I have never understood the hate for it and feel that it is criminally underrated. Bringing us into the top 3, I have Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Some of you may be surprised to see this film so high, but I simply feel that it is a perfect introduction to the wizarding world and the characters within the story. A story which is very simplistic, but that is what makes it work far better as a film adaptation than most of the Harry Potter movies, because it doesn't feel conflicted on what should and shouldn't be kept in from the book. It also nails what the wizarding world should feel like, in my opinion, as Christopher Columbus frames it as a very warm and inviting place which is fun to explore. At number 2, I have Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, a film which is, in my opinion, a perfect prequel that expands the world of the franchise rather than relying on nostalgia bait in order for its story to work. It also introduces us to a great new cast of characters that I fell in love with the second I first saw them on screen. The directorial style of David Yates is also able to stand out far more in this film rather than being restricted like in the later Potter films. In my opinion, Order of the Phoenix is the most stylistic of his Harry Potter films. After that point, they started to feel rather samey and bland, which is kind of disappointing. But in this film, he is able to put some of his stylistic choices to far better use. For example, his use of close-up newspaper panning shots. In the Harry Potter films, his use of those shots felt rather pointless because they were conveying information to the audience that the characters told us later on anyway, but in the opening scene of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, we are told through the newspapers information about Grindelwald and the international travel ban. The international travel ban sets up the dilemma that Newt finds himself in at the beginning of The Crimes of Grindelwald, and the information about Grindelwald subtly sets up the twist that occurs at the end of the film. I've also heard a common phrase thrown around in connection to the Fantastic Beasts films, that being that they do not recapture the magic of the Harry Potter films. In my opinion, these films, and this film in particular, did not need to recapture the magic of Harry Potter because they provide a new sense of magic. Moments such as entering MACUSA in New York for the first time, or seeing Jacob Kowalski experiencing the wizarding world for the first time, are easily the most magical and whimsical moments in this franchise since seeing Hogwarts for the first time. But at number 1, and I am fully aware that this is an unpopular opinion, I have Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. This film just provides everything that I want out of a Harry Potter film. The tone is able to balance darkness, levity, and mystery far better than any other in my opinion. The introduction of purebloods and their prejudice towards Muggleborns, the mystery of the Basilisk and the Chamber of Secrets, as well as the humor they are able to generate from characters such as Gilderoy Lockhart. The plot always feels like it is moving forward, and the characters are constantly learning new information, which means that every scene has a purpose. The film never feels its length to me, which is actually 2 hours and 45 minutes, making it the longest film in the franchise. It is easily the most fun and satisfying experience that I have watching any of these films, and while some of that may have to do with my nostalgia for it, I feel like that is the feeling that Harry Potter is meant to provide. With all of that said, that's about it for my ranking of all 11 Wizarding World films. This is probably the last Wizarding World video I will make for quite a while, but it has been a pleasure to talk to you guys about Harry Potter, Fantastic Beasts, and the Wizarding World over the past 3 months. You guys let me know. How would you rank the Wizarding World films? Whatever your thoughts are, please let me know them all in the comments below. And of course, as always, I hope you guys have a great day. Take care.